Welcome to the Buy Box Experts podcast. We bring to light the unique opportunities brands face in today's e-commerce world.
Hello, and welcome to the Buy Box Experts podcast. This is Eric Stopper. This episode is brought to you by Buy Box Experts. We take ambitious brands and make them unbeatable. Big brands hire us because of one word: holistic. We offer all kinds of free consultation services because Amazon is just hard and Jeff Bezos hates you and wants you to fail, even though he wants to make lots of money. But we have your back. Go to buyboxexperts.com, click on the free analysis button. We are going to start charging for it next week. So go and click it. You'll be connected with me or a member of my team, and we'll help you understand where your store is at, where you're not bulletproof, where your strengths are. We'll just help you understand the full picture, and maybe we can work together. Now, today, I am joined by Jordan Monroe, the Chief Innovation Officer at Owlet, a company that develops smart wearable and non-wearables for new and expecting parents. Their flagship product is a wearable baby sock that tracks blood oxygen levels using pulse oximetry. For those who aren't aware of pulse oximetry, you for sure have come into contact it. It's the little red dot, the light that doctors attach to your finger when you're at the hospital to measure your vitals. He started the company while still a student at my alma mater, Brigham Young University, and has gone on to graduate from the Techstars Accelerator. He's raised $48 million in venture funding, and he and his team have won multiple awards across a whole host of programs like TechCrunch, CES, and many more. Jordan is a mentor, a dyed-in-the-wool entrepreneur, and a friend, and I brought him on to share his expertise. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. Happy to be here.
So I have so many questions, but we are always short on time. You co-founded Owlet back in 2012, and your primary role was marketing, right?
Yeah. Yep. I ran our marketing team for a while.
And I understand that you guys were able to grow Owlet from 0 to 17 million in your first year that you actually had product, right?
Yep.
The main question, and out of all the interviews that I've heard and listened to between you and other hosts, I haven't heard what do you feel like you did right? You know, I would say that most people listening to this haven't hit that home run ever in their career. How'd you do it?
Yeah, I think, there's a few things you got to get right. I think, the first one is just kind of the non-starter is product market fit. We nailed a pain point that really resonated with parents. And that's interesting because I've actually, the last 8 years or so, I've got a little note on my phone of every competitor that's come out. And then we've had about 10 different people try to solve this problem of is my baby okay? And they've done it through different technologies like radars and cameras and, mats that use fiber optics and all kinds of different things. And at the end of the day, I feel like none of them have gone anywhere except for us. There's been a handful that are venture funded and, still I think had a similar opportunity, but I think at the end of the day, product market fit is really, really key. I think that's I feel half the story. You got to get it right, but there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. I think another really key piece was figuring out how to market this thing. When we first started marketing it, it cost us about $1,000 to get a customer. This is for a $250 product at the time. We tried Google ads and it was something that just didn't make sense, right out of the gate with people. So, people would be searching for a video monitor and our ad would pop up and they say, why am I looking at a baby foot? And they just get rid of it. And it just didn't make any sense. And so, nailing, we first had to drive awareness around this category creating product. And we did that through, top of funnel things like Facebook and Instagram, creating awareness around this idea and then trying to capture it, later down the funnel. But so, getting third party voice was really key, working with bloggers and influencers. And then, leveraging them at the top of funnel with Facebook to just drive awareness. We would have seen the same thing had we gone to retail, almost exact. I imagine it being literally the exact same story of, you're looking for a video monitor and this foot thing gets in your way and you're like, oh, get out of my way. Just don't even take a look at it. So, not going to retail was a pretty key decision in the early days, which was hard. We were struggling to figure out the marketing piece, and these retailers were dying to get it. They could see it. With a little bit of explanation, people got it. But, you don't have time in a Google ad or on a shelf to give that little bit of explanation. You have to build the brand first.
So it's like a little more than 2 seconds of time. And I mean, like, walk me through the customer journey. I'm a stressed out parent. I have a history. I'm connected to people who have died of sudden infant death syndrome. Walk me through their customer journey, right? Like, at what point do they really start taking it seriously, and what do they need to see typically before they even start on the journey towards your product?
Yeah, I think that there's, a handful of different personas that are, willing to buy our product. And I think most people might not realize that they are one of those people. They don't just wake up and say, I think there's a foot product out there, a sock that goes on a baby's foot that I can go buy to give me peace of mind, So we have to get in front of those people and build awareness around the product. But, for most people, it's just, hey, I just want to get a good night's sleep. I want to know that my baby's okay. Because as a parent, it's really hard. You go from, constantly being up with this baby and, being, just taking care of them. And then as soon as they fall asleep, you've got like a 2-minute window where you're ready to fall asleep. And then you think to yourself, oh crap, is baby okay? I haven't heard them for a little bit. And that sits with you and you're sitting there anxious, awake, and sleep deprived all at the same time. All you need is sleep in that moment. And what's really nice is for our parents is that they can open up the app, see their baby's heart rate and oxygen levels, know that their baby's breathing, and just go back to bed. And there's a little base station that comes with the product. So it goes on parents' nightstand, and it can, it's connected to the sock, so it can notify them in case the vital signs go below a preset range.
So this is it's almost like a Internet of Things, but a heuristic device. You're not supposed to dig into the data. It's just supposed to give you some indicator that like things are at least okay enough that you can go to bed. And it's just that light, right? It's green, the light that shows up, right? Yeah.
And this was a different kind of idea back when we were, 2013, when it was the year, I think 2013 was the year of the quantified self. Maybe it was 2014. But if you remember, Fitbit had come out and the whole world was saying, oh my gosh, we are in the future. We will quantify everything. We will just know everything about everything that happens in and outside of our bodies, and it will just be so valuable to us. And we kind of looked at that and said, that's not resonating with our parents. That's not resonating with the customers that we see, we sit down with, we're showing prototypes to. What's resonating with them is they want to know that their baby's okay. And we had investors that were like, no. Like,
more
stay out of that. Well, more like stay out of that. Like, show them lots of data, show them how long until they'll fall asleep, show them what milk at 10 o'clock does to them and versus milk at 10:30, And we kind of, again, that was a hard decision to make because we felt like we were going against the grain that was in the articles and stuff. And, and I think now the story has switched to, it's not just about IoT. It's not just about quantified self. It's actually about compelling use cases. What's so compelling about Fitbit isn't the fact that you had 5,000 steps versus 4,000 steps. It's that, I want to lose 10 pounds. I want to lose 30 pounds. And that's a compelling thing that people are really striving for at the end of the day. So, and that's what Fitbit did was promising people. So.
You did not have this figured out at the beginning. This was trial and error, $1,000 a pop. At what point did it break, man, when the $299 price point actually was paying for itself in terms of like lead versus sale price?
It took us about 2 months to figure it out.
Okay. That's not bad.
to get something that was profitable, and that made sense. And luckily, I mean, we did have a product that like caught people's attention. So we put a lot of spend behind just a really, really simple video on Facebook that was just explain the product. And we ended up getting, millions and millions of views on it, but we pushed it, and then we kind of realized that, there's this third party piece to it. It's not enough that we say it's great. Like, we need somebody else to say it's great, and then we can help boost that message. That's where influencers and bloggers were super key for the first year and a half. And they're still really key for our brand. But now I feel like the brand is pretty well known, and parents are telling parents about it. And, in the early days that, we still have to build that awareness.
So, I mean, that all of these things open up a can of worms. So just to kind of clue you into to our listeners, right? Most everybody on here, they're digital marketing managers, they're CEOs, they're aspiring entrepreneurs who kind of want to nail this 1 to 17 million thing. Would be super nice, right? They subscribe a lot of the time to hear general marketing insights and like, how do I dominate Amazon specifically? Yeah. And Owlet does well on Amazon, and I wanted to run a case study by you for them, if that's all right. Have you had a chance to mess with brand analytics?
Yeah.
In the back end of Seller Central. So for those listening as well who have no idea what I'm talking about, Amazon released the top 2 million searched keywords on Amazon. So number 1 is typically AirPods. So that has the most search volume. And then it gives you the number 1 clicked ASIN, the number 2 clicked ASIN, and the number 3 clicked ASIN. And it gives you their click and conversion share for each of those. And so they're basically telling you how big the market is, right? So number 1 is AirPods. Number 2 is like iPhone 11 case. And actually, we've been seeing the H95, N95 mask rise to the top of the list. It's the number 1 search phrase on Amazon because of the coronavirus. And so it's a really good snapshot as far as like what the market looks like, what the people are looking for. When you search for baby monitor, okay, there's 400 keywords that show up in brand analytics. And that's a huge deal, man. That means that there's 400 different ways that people are searching for baby monitors, baby monitor video, baby monitor sock, Owlet, Smart Sock 2, baby monitor video. And I noticed that Owlet gets 97% of their sales on Amazon from searches for their brand name. It's like very, very much bottom of the funnel. And so my question for you is, does this kind of fit with the model that Owlet has in terms of capturing, you mentioned this earlier, capturing people at the bottom of the funnel once they've been educated? Or do you think there is a way for Owlet to kind of target this middle and top of funnel markets on Amazon?
Yeah, for sure. I think, that's kind of been our strategy, from the beginning, which is go create awareness on a platform like Facebook, get them to the top of the funnel, and they're going to transact at a lot of different places. They might transact at Target or Buy Buy Baby or Babies R Us or Amazon. And so it doesn't surprise me. The same thing is actually said in our retailers that, what's the number 1 question people have about the product is, where is it? Which means that people are showing up to the store already very aware of the product and saying, this is what I want. So, but I mean, do I think there's opportunity for us to leverage other parts and get in front of more people? Definitely. One of the problems of, when you nail one way of doing things is that it distracts you from being able to sit down and find other ways of doing things. We've got a flywheel that we've solved for and we're kind of building around, but there's I'm sure other opportunities within Amazon and others to kind of grow awareness. And
you guys are working on this. You launched a new product recently via Dream Labs. Is that what it's called? It's an educational tool. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Most brands are kind of fishing in a lake. The Fitbit's got, I don't know, 200 million people who could wear their devices. And Fitbit can sit there and just keep pushing ads to all these people. And eventually someone's going to bite after maybe the 50th time that they've seen a Fitbit ad or seen it on somebody, you know?
Yeah.
We're in a bit of a unique situation where we're kind of fishing in a river where people are, you know, becoming pregnant, starting at the top of the river.
Right. It's a
and then
linear
making their
buying
way.
process.
Yeah. And if we miss them, if we don't catch them in this window of like last trimester to first few weeks of pregnancy, you know, they don't transact, you know, the baby already grows up and they don't need it anymore.
Interesting.
So, and especially because there's like a nesting period where you buy everything. And this is actually key for like all baby products. Like if you miss that window of time in the last trimester, first few weeks, it's like your product's not going to get purchased. So I think for, you know, a growth strategy for us is, you know, what are we've built a fantastic product on the Smart Sock. What are some other products that would make sense in this ecosystem that can add value to parents and also makes our advertising dollars go a little bit further as we increase the lifetime value of these customers. So, you know, that's kind of the business perspective of why we built Dream Lab. But, you know, from sitting back for years, we've said the two biggest problems or hardest things with parenting is one, safety, like is my baby okay? And two is sleep. You know, how can I get a few more hours of sleep? And sleep is just this really massive pain that everyone feels. And there isn't a good, solid solution out there. You know, there's books. If, you know, you don't have, you know, if you're the average person or if you're like the upper elites, there's this thing called a sleep consultant that'll sit down and create a custom plan and help you troubleshoot.
Right. There's AI now too that will coach you to sleep and apps that will sing to you and read to you and stuff. Yeah.
So, you know, from the baby perspective, we said, okay, there's these two big options out there, books for most people that aren't super effective, sleep consultants for the very elite, but they're super effective. How can we have the best of both worlds? So we created a pretty cool technology course that asks about 100 questions to understand you and your baby, and then puts together a custom plan with videos and educational info that, you know, helps you get your baby sleeping through the night. So it's really cool. You know, we have, you know, tons and tons of success stories where parents are just like, every 2 hours, my baby was waking me up, went through the course, my baby sleeps 13 hours. Like, you've given me my life back. And,
that's great.
And yeah, that's really fun. So that's a new product we just barely launched. And we're seeing great traction on.
So going back to kind of the river analogy, I like that because I agree. I think a lot of people they're just at the same lake. They don't even pick the spot in the lake. They just kind of throw their line out and hope that they get somebody. And then they wonder, right? Like when the fish isn't the one that they wanted and they get a negative review or whatever, right? Like it's all about alignment with who your target is. So if we go to the river, there's two kind of questions that I have, and this applies to everybody because I think a lot of the people that we sell to have these windows of interest, right? I sell dog collars, right? Like you're not going to buy a dog collar once you've already had a dog for a year, right? So if I don't get them at the point that they're searching for even like dog breeds and stuff, like my chances are really slim. So question number one, obviously the more products that you have sitting, you know, ready in this river as almost like fishing lines or nets, Owlet has like the sock, the video camera, the bundle, and then the Dream Labs. Are there, like, how are you guys adding more lines to the river outside of your product suite? Or is that the only way? That's the first question.
No, I think, you know, getting penetration on the sock is also really, really key. You know, other product lines help with this vision of, you know, holding parents' hands through the journey of parenthood, which is something we really want to do. And you can't do that with just one product. But I think on top of that, you know, going deeper with the Smart Sock is still really key. You know, we've submitted for FDA clearance and we'll be getting that this year. And yeah, so I think, and we're doing some clinical studies to kind of show the effectiveness and, you know, highlight a lot of what we're seeing anecdotally, which is that people are emailing us and saying this alarmed me for my baby. And I had no idea that he had rolled over. I had no idea that, the babysitter had put him down on their belly. I mean, we're informing them of things that parents didn't know about. We're seeing that anecdotally, and we're really excited to kind of publish some research that shows that that's actually effective. So that's all kind of coming in the works, and going deeper on the Smart Sock is something we're really, really passionate about. But yeah.
Are you building then, if the idea is to catch more fish, and you're not technically going to add 10 SKUs to support this one SKU, it sounds like that would be almost infeasible. Is the idea just to create a stronger fishing pole, right? Like a stronger net? Or, what can you do at the top of the river that will influence the point that your net is actually hitting these customers? Have you guys looked at that whole customer journey and tried to understand different ways that you can strengthen your net, strengthen your fishing pole, that flagship product?
Yeah. I think that's all around, to me, strengthening the net is improving the funnel, right? And making our marketing more direct, more cost effective, and making that function better. I think, moving upstream and downstream is kind of growing the lifetime value of a customer. So offering more products, different pieces of the stream.
Fatten the fish up on the way, just throw in food. It's free. You're giving them free stuff. My second question is, and I think this applies to most people and they're unaware of it, is that there's typically really narrow parts of the river that everybody has to go through. So for your market, right, I would say that's probably what to expect when you're expecting, right? Like if your product appeared in that book, it would probably just change the whole dynamic of how people shop for baby products, right? If they were actively endorsing those things. Have y'all looked at strategies like that are almost like dams in the river where that there's a huge bottleneck there and you can just cast your net and just pull people in?
Yeah. So, one thing is, so we buy emails of pregnant people. So everyone that gets a baby, it gets pregnant. We found that one out pretty quick, and so that's been something really key to us, is to really, target our message toward, not even just pregnant people, but people that are pregnant at a certain point,
Sure.
in that life cycle. So, catching them in that last trimester and being highly targeted.
And that's where it all starts. As soon as you know that information about people, is that pretty easy to figure out? I would assume that, everybody posts about their baby on Facebook. And so is it an AI that has to look at the picture? Right? Like, how do you figure that kind of thing out?
Yeah, Facebook's okay. Facebook says that they can do that. We purchase actual emails from another database that is, that people are going in and saying, here's my due date. So.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Distilling that for the common, the common seller on Amazon, if you're not in the baby market, right? Like you should still probably buy emails. You should still be doing marketing outside of Amazon, especially if it's a bottom of the funnel channel for you. I think that's some good advice. Now,
if you've created a brand and your dollars aren't going to go to getting other people to, purchasing your potential customers purchasing other people's products, I think that there's tons of value in being able to do that.
Yeah. And I guess you guys have cracked the code on it, right? You said you had 10 other competitors that have, tried to throw their line in this water and they just couldn't feed themselves. Yeah. And so I guess I wonder, if they really had products that could help solve this pain, do you think that's what it goes back to, is an inability to actually solve the pain of sleep? Or is it more of they didn't understand that there's a whole customer journey that they got to have a dozen touch points with before that person buys? Do you think it was a misunderstanding of the market or something about the product that caused their failure?
I think it's a mix of both, but I think that it's a product. I think a big piece is the product market fit, in my opinion.
Sure. And yeah, that makes sense. Now, in my research of you, Jordan, you don't wear a smartwatch, right? You want to be disconnected, and so I was reading articles. I was reading things that you are looking to the future and helping people understand kind of your take on what the Internet of Things looks like and what is declaring war on our attention and stuff like that. And I am on the complete opposite side of the fence. I like if Alexa tells me something wrong or can't figure it out, I'm like, remember this, right? Like I tell her that and she's like, sorry, like I don't know how to do that. And I get mad. I'm like, no, you need to know more information about me. Um, Walk me through some of your thoughts around attention and health. You're in this baby space and you're obsessed with it. I can tell just by the culture of the business. But kind of walk me through your thoughts. And you even talked about something called gross domestic health as a measurement for society. Just give us a flavor of where your head's at.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's and I'm not saying, I think there's a difference between like privacy, your thing on Alexa. I'd probably do the same thing. Like I'm not crazy about my privacy. I would love to give Alexa all my bank statements and Google, everything about what I do if they would just give me better content, show me
Right.
more relevant ads. Man, I would just love that. So it's less about privacy. It's more about I think the attention piece, and I think a lot of our attention will go to screens in general. And at the end of the day, we end up feeling pretty unfulfilled.
Mm.
I've got this whole belief on gross domestic happiness, and how I feel that the reason we measure gross domestic product is because we really care about, we think higher economic growth leads to more happiness, right? But
Right.
look at the last decade. We've had since 2008, we've actually had fantastic economic growth. And we're actually
Everybody's depressed.
and we're actually in a public health crisis, a mental health crisis. I went to a panel on this just recently, and especially in Utah, we've got highest usage of antidepressants. The largest cause of death of teenagers in Utah is suicide. I mean, we're dealing, and then the opioid addiction, the opioid epidemic is really just a mental health epidemic wrapped up in opioids, right? These are people who are having a hard time dealing and are moving to opioids to help cope.
Right.
So I just think that, we're measuring gross domestic product and economic growth because we think it makes us happier. But why don't we just measure happiness directly? Like we're skip the middleman and say, you know what? Screens are making us unhappy, and let's find a way where we still get all the benefits of screens, but we can, get rid of a lot of the negatives that are causing
Yeah.
us to be so
Put on
depressed.
your tinfoil hat for a second with me and let's look into the future, right? And talk about how it works because I turn off my phone when I go home so that I can play with my kid, right? I'm addicted to TikTok at this point. I super love it, and that's like
So
that's my
good.
guilty pleasure. So good.
So good.
So how in the world do we start measuring? Is it a gross domestic happiness? I'm sorry, I called it health before. Happiness.
That's fine.
Is it a self-report? Is it a government survey that goes out all the time? Is it you take your blood and it tells you how many metachlorians you have, right? Like what? How do we get there in your
Yeah, I
mind?
think right now it's a subjective measure that's done via survey, and that's how psychologists measure contentment or happiness right now. It's just a really simple survey. How are you feeling right now? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling, it can be really in depth, but it can also just be really light, like measure of 1 to 5. How are you feeling right now? And and we could very clearly see that, as soon as we cleared up traffic on I-15, user gross domestic happiness went up by 10%. Oh man, looks like traffic is really making people unhappy. how are we going to fix traffic? Like, that's just a totally different concept versus like, okay, it costs us too much to build a road,
Right.
economically it doesn't make sense, but it's like the whole goal is to be happy in life. So why don't we just focus on that?
Yeah, and it seems like if I'm able to improve happiness in my customers, and I feel like there's certainly been studies on this, right? If I'm able to improve the mental health of my workforce, they will invariably be more productive, which means that gross domestic product will also. So you're talking about striking at the root, right? Getting the main issue solved so that then we have more economic success. More people go to work. More people are productive at work. More people elect to probably exercise and stuff like that, which allows for lower sick days.
It's definitely a positive feedback loop of, better begets better. And I totally agree with you there.
I think my whole deal too with happiness is you can elect, right? Like you can tell the robot what you want to see. Right, Alexa shows now, the Echo shows now prompt you with, hey, try saying this, right? And some of the stuff that it shows is awful, right? It's, there's a famine happening in Yemen or, whatever it is. And if you say, tell me the Yemen story, Alexa then knows to serve up, controversial, political, call it what you will, negative pieces. Whereas if you go through and you say, hey, Alexa, tell me something good. She's then programmed to keep feeding stuff like that to you. So do you think that this is going to come from, a government organization, or is this just going to come from the people getting more educated about what they need to be filling their happiness pipeline with?
Yeah, I think that there's, man, I think government sucks at a lot of stuff. So I don't know if they would solve it. I think it would first get solved by smart entrepreneurs and people and thought leaders. I think right now, the spotlight's on mental health. Everyone's sitting here saying, holy crap, the last 10 years have just been really bad. You compare that to, we went through an economic recession, and somehow it's coming out of the recession that's been harder for us. So it's not just the economics that affect our happiness. So.
Now, Outlet as a product is very much a monitoring device. I'll say that. FDA, come call me. But is this going to contribute to that happiness, right? The idea is you want people to have more sleep when they have kids. And more sleep equals more happiness. Is that kind of the goal and mission of Owlet in general?
Yeah, I think that's what gets us excited, is that you're making a real impact on people's lives, and this in one of like the hardest times ever, that you'll go through in your life. So I think that's why we've got a really, really high net promoter score, is because we're just delivering a piece of value that you just can't find anywhere else. And it feels really good. It's really fun as an entrepreneur to see that effect on people.
So Jordan, where do I send people? Obviously owletcare.com. Go and copy one. It makes a great present, is my understanding.
Yeah.
How else do I get people to get involved with what you're doing?
I think that's probably the best. I think following us on social is great too, and kind of see what the brand does. This is pretty unique that we kind of share some of the inner learnings and what's going on. We don't really blog a whole lot, at least for business or entrepreneurs. So I was able to share a lot of this stuff today.
Right on. Check out DreamLab. Check out the Owlet Smart Sock 2 and their camera at owletcare.com. Go and cop it on Amazon if you want to automatically give them a fee. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much, Jordan.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to the Buy Box Experts podcast. Be sure to click subscribe, check us out on the web, and we'll see you next time.